Okay, did you enjoy your breakfast? Yes. Okay, so I'm sure you guys are ready to just get on to the next thing, huh? But not yet. Not yet. I am so happy to be here and so happy to be a part of your annual meeting. I lost my voice right before Thanksgiving. My husband was so happy. It was about 3 days of me not being able to really kind of get it out there, but it didn't stop me from talking. And it is not going to stop me today. I want to acknowledge all of our AT&T employees. Stand up, AT&T. This is the A-Team, led by Jim Tarman here in this region. Thank you for all that you do for our company, and especially right here in Guilford County. I love you guys. Oh, I'm going to miss you terribly. Oh, this is emotional. I was actually supposed to be in Dallas this week. And Margaret, there was no way I was going to miss today. I told the chairman I will see you next week. So Margaret, I just really appreciate what you're doing and your team. Let's give them a hand. Some great work is going on. Nathan, thank you so much. You're a fabulous board chair. Secretary Carlisle, Linda Carlisle, stand up, Linda. It's so good to have you here, and thank you for what you are doing to put the focus back on the arts in our schools. And we have a great initiative that we're going to be working together on, the A+ School Initiative. Tony Habit, where are you? Tony Habit introduced me to education here in North Carolina. I love you, Tony. Thank you for being so solid and so committed to all of our children. And there are so many others in here. Shirley Fry in here. Shirley Fry is one of our honorees on our inaugural Heritage Calendar. It's something that AT&T launched this year on October 24th. It's a celebration of the African American experience of North Carolina. Stand up, Shirley. We appreciate all that you have done for this great state. And just thank you for the work that all of you are doing with the Guilford Education Alliance. And for making sure that a good quality public education is really the top priority, not secondary, not at the bottom of the list, but the top priority of Guilford County citizens. So just look around this room. Look around. Just look around the room. North Carolina is at it again. We have come together once again for the sake of our children. That is one of the many things I love about living in this great state. And being here for the past 6 years, we love our children. That's why it's so hard for me to leave North Carolina. When I moved here 6 years ago from California, I wanted to know, what is it like in North Carolina? I'd only been here once for a friend's wedding. I will tell you the way I describe it is we truly love and care about our children. Now, I have learned a few things. And I used to call myself a California girl. Now I'm calling myself a North Carolina girl. But this former California girl learned a few things when I got here. And my parents left Birmingham, Alabama when I was 3 months old and moved to California. So I was raised by Southern parents, but some things I didn't understand. Like my mother would always say, it's a pocketbook, not a purse. And when I got to North Carolina, I realized now it's a pocketbook. But I also have learned that all the years my mother said, bless your heart, wasn't really a blessing. I figured that one out. But I've also learned that North Carolinians are truly the nicest people on the planet. So thank you for blessing me to be a North Carolinian. Now, one of my goals when I arrived here 6 years ago was that I wanted our company to get involved in the education game in a very meaningful way. And in 2008, our company launched an initiative called AT&T Aspire. It's a $100 million initiative focused on high school success and workforce readiness, making sure that our kids are ready for college and ready for some type of career, that they have the foundation they need when they leave high school. So this year, we expanded that program by another $250 million. So now it's a $350 million program. And I was just so delighted that in North Carolina, the AT&T Aspire grant went to Guilford County schools. And Mo Green talked about it earlier. Thank you. I mean, that was because of the work of you in this room. We had hundreds of applications from North Carolina, and then of course all the other states had theirs. Guilford County Schools was selected by our corporation to receive the $100,000 check for North Carolina. So give yourselves a hand. Okay, now I have a few ground rules for the next few minutes. Now I'm going to try to cut my speech in half. I'm going to try. I'm going to do the best I can. But I just haven't figured out which half yet. So, like, y'all got to work with me. So here, we have some ground rules for the next few minutes. The first one is that you have to be willing to talk to each other. So look at your table. Look at the people at your table. Just talk to them. Smile. Tell them you're glad that they're here. Tell them just, hang with us for another 15, 20 minutes. Okay? And then you also have to let me know you're out there. Because, I need some interaction. So every now and then I need an amen, sister. Can I get a witness? Tell it, okay? I need something like that. Now let me tell you, I grew up in a Pentecostal church. Now don't y'all worry, we're going to get out before midnight. But I need y'all to talk to me, okay? And then my third ground rule is that if you have an AT&T cell phone, turn it on. You do not have to turn it off. You can talk, you can text, let that thing ring. You don't even have to stand, you don't even have to go outside to talk and text. I need you to run up some charges because that's how I make my money and that's how my kids eat. It's just something about the sound of a ringing phone. I love it. I love it. So you can turn your phones back on. And if you have any other provider besides AT&T, you can just leave it right here and we'll confiscate all of those. Let me tell you a story. Okay, so remember the first ground rule, that you have to be able to talk to each other. So look at your neighbor. Look at him. I told you I grew up in a Pentecostal church. Say, neighbor. Neighbor. Y'all gotta get louder than that, okay? Neighbor. Neighbor. The person we see, is the person we will be. All right, that sounds good. Now, if you grew up like I grew up in church, we always had two neighbors. So look at somebody else and say, neighbor. Now is the time to rethink possible. Let me tell you a story. Amen. I love it. Can I get a witness? This is my next and last speech, so I ain't gonna tell them what I'm liable to do. Okay? A legend tells of a prince who suffered from a spinal problem. He could only walk with his back arched and his face looking down. This caused him great physical pain and emotional despair. Finally, he went to a great sculptor and asked him to carve a statue that would portray him without a spinal deformity. Working rapidly, the sculptor soon created a magnificent likeness of the prince, tall and straight. Shall I place it in front of the palace gate for all to see? Asked the sculptor. No, answered the prince. I want it placed in my private garden where only I can see it. Once the statue was in place, the prince spent part of each day observing it, dreaming of the man he might have been if his back were straight. As time passed, people in the kingdom noticed a change in the prince. He was standing a little taller and straighter. A physical change was definitely taking place. As the prince visualized himself with a straight back, he began to rise up to the image in his mind. Look at someone again and say, now is the time to rethink possible. Now, most of you know that that's my company tagline, is rethink possible. I said it's so funny here because I live up in RTP, up in Cary, in the Research Triangle Park, and every time they say RTP, I'm like, nah, RTP for me is rethink possible. And it's not just the tagline of my company, it truly describes my life and what a good public education caused me to do. I grew up as the fourth child of 6 in the Easter Hill housing projects in Richmond, California. When I was 11 years old, a tragic incident occurred in our family, and I witnessed my father shoot a man in the head in self-defense. Actually, probably more in defense of me, since I was standing with my father when this happened, watching the entire situation unfold. You see, I was supposed to be in the back room with my mother and my 5 sisters and brothers, but in my usual nosy fashion, even back then, I wanted to see what was going on. My father didn't realize that I was standing at the door and standing by his side until a young man pulled out a silver pistol and pointed it down on my father's right side. A teenager, 16 years old, dropout. That's when he knew, my father knew, that I was not in the back room with my mother and my 5 brothers and sisters, but in the potential pathway of a bullet. Everyone in our family coped differently with this situation. I found refuge in my books and in the classroom, because the classroom was a place where I could hide, feel free, and just be safe. So when all of us kids were sequestered in the house, obviously for safety purposes, I insisted on going to school. As a 7th grader, somehow my mother worked with the local police department, and I was escorted to school in the 7th grade by a uniformed police officer. Sometime he took me in his car, sometime I was on the bus. I wasn't embarrassed about it. I was so glad to be able to go to school. I even laugh about it now. I said, you know what, I had Secret Service way back then, before it was even popular. But despite me finding refuge in the classroom and feeling safe at school, the family situation was still bad, still with lots of violence and turmoil, and my parents divorced 4 years later when I was 15 years old. In an ugly rage, the summer before my junior year in high school, the summer of 1975, my father left us. And although he left us with very little, and literally we were in a 4-bedroom deluxe housing projects unit because there were 6 kids and 2 parents, he left us with 1 mattress for me and my younger sister to sleep on. But he also left me with something very profound, the image of what I would become. And the image was this. He said I would be stuck in the projects with no way out, smart but to wet in, pregnant by 16, probably on drugs, like most of the kids in my neighborhood. To be specific, hookers on the street was the destiny that he predicted for me and my youngest sister. In an instant, as I heard these words, I flashed back not to the rocky childhood, not to the abusive home life, not to the bad neighborhood, but I flashed back and stood on the foundation of love and faith that was provided by my mother, who taught us it's not where you live, it's how you live. And with God, all things are possible. She taught us that we could do anything if we just put our trust in God. In response to my father, I spoke the following words to my sister. Now notice I said I spoke these words to my sister, not to my father, because I grew up in a time when you couldn't talk back to your parents. In fact, my kids are still growing up in a time where you can't talk back to your parents. I told my sister, I said, we will be the first to graduate from college. We will get our mother out of the projects, and I will be the president of something one day. That's how I responded to my father's words at 15 years old. Now, I probably was thinking the President of the United States, but I'm going to let the brother keep his job for right now. America has spoken. But I saw a Cynthia that was very different than the one my father saw. So look at your neighbor again and tell him the person you see is the person you will be. No, I like that. Y'all got this. I had a mental picture before me, and I was determined to grow into that image. So although many bad and violent things happened that summer, and we had to flee our home and all that, one really good thing happened to me. I was embraced by Mr. Patrick Rotelli, my business education teacher, Mrs. Elois Irvin, my algebra teacher, Mr. Michael Parrott, my English teacher, and Mr. Lawrence Chapman, the principal of John F. Kennedy High School. These wonderful educators didn't care about my background or my circumstances. They didn't treat me any different because I was poor and because I lived in the housing projects and my zip code was 94804. They didn't even care about the fact that most mornings I walked out of a troubled and abusive environment. They just embraced me. They saw me with a big brace on my nose where my father had broken my nose when I came back to school after that summer as a junior in high school. Head cheerleader, stood out there and cheered like there was no brace on my nose. They couldn't believe I was out there. They saw something that I didn't see, that my mother didn't see, and they embraced me. And that's what we have to do for our children. As business leaders, as educators, as community people, we have to embrace all of our children. So I want you to stand up. We're going to tee up some music. We're going to practice embracing our kids. We're just going to practice embracing them the way these people embraced me. And they taught me the meaning of Rethink Possible. They showed me that I have a future. So I want you to just pretend like we're all these young kids, part of these 72,000 that we're trying to touch every day. And just go, we're going to tee up the music, just go and find 3 people, embrace them and tell them, you can do it, rethink possible. Give me some music. From us every day. That's what happened to me. Educators, business people, leaders like you embraced me and my mother. I will never forget Cal Farmer, who was the president of the California Jewelers Association. He told me at the age of 16 that he was investing in me. He gave me a little scholarship. He was investing in me because it was good for his business and for the future of California. I didn't realize at the time, but Margaret, I know now what he was talking about. This is not just up to the parents. It's up to us business leaders to make a difference. It's about the growth of our economy. This is a business transaction on top of a moral transaction. These people set very high expectations for me and made an unselfish investment in my future, like the unselfish investment that you have made. And you'll be making more of an investment in just a few minutes. Because we're going to raise some money, right? Okay, we're going to raise money. And then come here. Okay, I'm getting them ready. It's like an altar call. I'm getting them ready. Okay? Amen. But it's as if these people knew that it was a matter of life or death. Literally, death. Life or death for me. And for our community. So I ended up graduating from high school at the top of my class. I was offered a full scholarship to the college of my choice. I chose the University of California at Berkeley, not because it was the #1 public institution in the world, because it was 20 minutes close to home. And I didn't want to leave my mother with everything going on. But I made a good choice. But I was focused. I had so many educators, business people, community leaders, pastors, people at church that had a vision for my future. So they told me to focus and go to Cal and make something happen. And I was very focused. Let me tell you how focused I was. My first week in college, my very first week, my boyfriend called, and he lived 3 hours away from me. And he called and he said, well, Cyn, I just want you to know I have a surprise. He said, I've transferred from Fresno City College, and I'm at San Francisco State University now. I've transferred so I can be close to you. This is my first week in college. I said, hold up, boyfriend. I said, I got a surprise for you. I'll call you when I graduate. He said, what? I said, I will call you when I graduate from college. I have too many people depending on me, and these people have told me to focus. I said, I got to focus. I said, I don't have time for some smooth-talking cutie who wants to play when I need to study. I will call you when I graduate. So 4 years later, almost 4 years later, when I graduated college, I called him. And I said, hey, this is Cyn. He said, who? You don't know me. He said, I haven't talked to you in 4 years. I said, man, I've been on a mission. But I graduated from college today, and my mom is still in the projects, but I'm going to get around. She's having a little party at 6 o'clock. You got to be there. He said, I can't be there. I said, no, wrong answer. Then I told him I was going to start working for the phone company. I mean, I was just wild, just like I am now, okay? He said, I can't come, I'm engaged. He said, I haven't heard from you. I said, hey, wait a minute. Didn't I tell you I was going to call you the day I graduated? I got to focus. I said, the party's at 6 o'clock. Well, I'm happy to tell you I've been married to that man almost 30 years. What's that song Beyonce says? If you like it, then you ought to put a ring on it. Well, you put the ring on it. I teased him to that day. I said, boy, you were that close to missing your blessing. So, back to my story. I learned from my mom and some dedicated people like you that if I focused and studied, that it didn't matter where I came from, that I could accomplish whatever I set out to do. They opened my mind to the possibilities and to a new world of opportunity. My mother put 2 books in my hand, a math book and a Bible, in that order, and taught me that a good education was my ticket out of poverty. Look at somebody and say, a math book and a Bible. And I tell my kids now, you just need a math book and a Bible. And then my husband tells them math is hard. So I just give him the Bible. So I've had a tremendous journey from the housing projects to the president's office. I often tell people that I don't just work for AT&T. I am AT&T, anointed to testify. Look at somebody and say, AT&T, anointed to testify. So let me close by testifying to you just a few things that I have learned about this education journey. And as I call out who you are, we did this a little earlier, but we're going to do it again. Educators. We're all of our educators. And I'm talking about the teachers, the principals, the people that work in the office. My mother was one of those front office people at John F. Kennedy High School. Stand up, educators. I love you. I truly, as you know from my story, I love you. I think you are the most important people on the planet. Let me testify to you. Cherish and value the work that you are doing. It is Homeland Security. Homeland Security really is your business. You are securing our future. You are so important to all of us. Set high expectations for our children, and remember that all 72,000 of them are at risk. They are at risk of greatness. You can be seated. Thank you for what you do. Business leaders, stand up, business leaders. Stand up, business leaders, all of you. Stand up. Yes, it's about our children, but it's about more than that. This really is about economic development. It's about growth of our communities, growth of our businesses, growth of our state and our nation. Engage like never before in education. Give your time, your talent, and your treasure. And you're doing that, and we're asking you to do even more of it. Open up your businesses. Let some young person come in who maybe has never even seen anything in your business. Bring them in and make a difference in their lives. It really is about economic development. Thank you, business leaders. Okay, sit down. Community leaders. Anybody in here that's a community leader, faith-based friends, nonprofit, stand up if you fall in that category. In the work that you do, embrace every, say every. Zip code doesn't matter. No, you have to say that. Zip code doesn't matter. Embrace every member of the village. The community did not cast me aside because of the incident that happened to us. They didn't cast me aside because my father shot a man in the head. They didn't cast me aside because I didn't look right, and because I didn't have on fancy clothes, and because I didn't have nothing, and because I didn't always know what to say, and because I thought you spelled intact with two, intact. I didn't know it was one word. It was stuff I didn't know. They didn't cast me aside. They embraced me. Embrace every member of the village and make education important, but more important, provide a safe place for our children. Thank you, community leaders. Policymakers, all the mayors, the politicians, elected, appointed officials, stand up. All our elected appointed officials. Is it just you, Linda? Okay, no, we got some more. Stand up. Help us set policies that will encourage our businesses to invest in education. Help our businesses do this. Reward those that do. Realizing that education, Tony, you taught me this. Tony Abbott taught me this. It really is the pathway to prosperity. Help us set the right policies because really the future of our community is at stake. Thank you for your commitment to service and for what you're doing for our children. As parents, we have to depend on everybody in here to help with our children. They have all kinds of issues. They come from all kinds of backgrounds. We don't know what those backgrounds are. We just have to embrace them and love them. And so I've taught my kids a poem that I'm hoping, and we have some cards later, that I'm hoping as parents you can go back and teach your children. And it's a poem that my mother taught me when I was in elementary school. And so that's my message to the parents. Encourage your kids to be the best. It says, if you can't be the pine on the top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley but be. The best little scrub by the side of the rill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a bush, be a bit of the grass, but some highway happier mate. If you can't be a muskie, then just be a bass, but the liveliest bass in the lake. We can't all be captains. Some have to be crew. There's something for all of us here. There's work to be done, and we've all got to do our part in the way that's sincere. If you can't be a highway, then be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by the size that you win or you fail. Just be the best of whatever you are. Parents, let's teach that to our children. Thank you. So, let me close by just saying education really, really does matter to all of us. Now, before we may raise lots of money and make even more commitments, I want to just take a minute for us to encourage each other on this education journey that we are on, realizing that it is not just about doing the right thing for our children. And I've learned in my life that there's a difference between doing things right and doing the right thing. But it's more than just doing the right thing. It really is a matter of homeland security. It really is a matter of economic development, of growth for our community. We've got to invest in these young people. So we're going to encourage each other. We're going to tee up my music one more time. Ain't no mountain high enough. That's my theme song, and probably now you know why, with my life story. And you know, I'm happy to be standing here because many of you know that I went through a very public cancer battle last year. I was diagnosed about a year ago, almost 2 years ago, with stage 3 colon cancer. And so I went through stage 3, one lymph node away from stage 4. I got some pretty bad news a couple of years ago. And with the prayers, the grace of God, and the prayers by so many in this room, I stand here today cancer-free. So you think I was wild before cancer? I'm wild now. I am on a mission about our young people. So stand up. We're going to tee up the music. I'm closing with this. I want you to encourage each other to stay mad. Look at somebody and say, let's get mad.